Hey folks, Matthew Weiss here, WeissAdvice.com and Weiss Advice here on YouTube. I am excited for this one. I've been holding on to it for a couple of years here, but we're going to be talking about recording Andre3000. He just dropped an album, so I thought it would be a good day to release this video. So this is going to be part philosophy, part technique. Going to go over everything from the recording chain, the recording process, what I would do had I been the mix engineer, etc., etc. But let's start with how the gig came about. Big shout out to my buddy Ken Oriole. He is Andre3000's primary engineer. He did the majority of the tracking and mixing on the new album that just dropped. In this particular case, Andre was doing a feature for the Goody Mob, and Ken was not in LA, so I got the call. He said, "Hey, could you sub in for me?" And I said, work with Andre3000? Let me think about it. Yes. So I love Andre3000 as an artist. I've been listening to him for a long time. He's a bucket list artist, and I was really thrilled to get to work with him. And now I'm going to play the recording here. All right.
3 art like a sob, none good but mob. Under the steps of dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor. Out of school or off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it. Nigga rolling up the roaches when the shit got short. Kiss your bitch on the porch, walk her back to her car. Pat that pussy, slap her tail and tell her see you tomorrow. Pocketbook to match the nail, she never needed a bra. I can tell that bitch with hair, she probably needed a father.
All right, so the recording chain was a Peluso 2251, which is a really good 251 clone. Not necessarily my favorite, but it's a really, really good, solid one that just always sounds good on pretty much everybody, so definitely happy to be using that. We used the Peluso 2251. That went into some kind of a Neve preamp. I think it was either an actual Neve or a BAE clone. Pretty sure BAE clone, and I can't remember if it was a 1081, a 1084, or a 1073, but it was one of those things. And then that went into a CL1B, and that was the tracking chain. That was it. So if I were to take off my other additional effects here, it sounded like this. Let's mute these two.
3 art like a sob, none good but mob. Under the steps of dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor. Out of school or off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it. Nigga rolling up the roaches when the shit got short. Kiss your bitch on the porch, walk her back to.
And, you know, I've made this point, I think, in an earlier video, maybe even this week, or, yeah, it was in the Far Away video, the Amira Akon record. Recording Akon, you know, I use a JZ V67 very frequently because that mic flatters his voice. When you listen to Andre's voice here, like, that sounds pretty darn good, nearly finished. It blends really well. There's a little bit of low mid buildup and, you know, could use maybe a little bit more solidity in like the 800 hertz kind of range, but really it's pretty darn close to a finished vocal. And I really prefer to record that way. I prefer to work that way in general. The closer we get to a finished product, the earlier on, the better. Every time. Now, in terms of the actual recording process, every artist has a different recording process. Some artists like to go one line at a time. Other artists like to do larger chunks of a section all at once. Some artists even like to go all the way through an entire section all at once. There is not a right or wrong to this. There are pros and cons to every approach. For most artists, particularly singers, I prefer to go 1 or 2 lines at a time, in which case the way that I do it is I use a record track, and then I have live dump tracks that are on the audio playback below. And that allows me to kind of mesh things around. It ends up looking like a little Tetris game, but I don't use a lot of playlisting. I sort of move things around and I save the takes on the record track so that they're there, they exist, we can go back to them, but I very rarely go back to them. Sometimes I'll hear something in a throwaway take where it's like kind of cool, like a neat inflection or something like that, and I'll make a quick little note. I'll jot it down and be like, oh, take 4-6. Check out the high note, something like that. And so I kind of know where to go and find it, but that's really about all I do with playlisting. However, it's very different for artists, particularly rappers, who like to do large chunks of a verse at a time. For that, a lot of the times rappers prefer to do that because it allows them to keep the flow and to keep the tone and keep the consistency and work off of what they were doing, which totally works as well. But what I find is it's very rare that one take will be perfect from beginning to end, or one take rather would be best from beginning to end. And so for that, doing multiple takes and getting several different options and then kind of going through and finding like the main take and then splicing in every couple of lines, if there's something like, oh, here's a better version of this line, splice it in, which is exactly what was happening here. You can see that all of these magenta colored ones, that's all the same take. So there was a primary take here, and then there were a couple places where we pulled from some other takes. Now, Andre, he has a very particular writing style. The way he does it is he basically just writes in his head and formulates the words and memorizes it all at once. He doesn't sketch it out on a pad or anything like that. So that's his primary form of writing, but then he does a secondary form of writing where he figures out the exact tone, delivery, and nuance of his verse or whatever he's doing within the actual recording process, because it allows him to hear it back and hear if that works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this again, and what I want is listen to the pocket and tone of his voice, and then I'll play a distinctly different feel so that you can hear the experimentation. And then I'll play some of the alternate takes that we ended up not using because of like little subtle nuancy things. So listen to his pocket, listen to his tone.
3 art like a sob, none good but mob. Under the steps of dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor. Out of school or off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it. Nigga rolling up the roaches when the shit got short. Kiss your bitch on the porch, walk her back to a car.
So especially like, let's listen to the very last bit. There's this way where his pocket is really rolling off of the snare. He's late on the pocket. He's deliberately coming in late. That's part of the style. And you can really hear it on the word car. And it's a really, really cool effect.
Kiss your bitch on the porch, walk her back to a car. Pat that pussy, slap her tail and tell her see you tomorrow.
Like on tomorrow, right? He doesn't say, tell her see you tomorrow. He says, tell you see you tomorrow. Like there's a pause in there.
Kiss your bitch on the porch, walk her back to a car. Pat that pussy, slap her tail and tell her see you tomorrow. Pocketbook to match the nail.
And it sounds really cool. He's really playing with pocket and rhythm in a really neat way. Now, I'm going to play an alternate approach to this and listen to where he lands on the beat.
Out of school or off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it. Nigga rolling up the roaches when the shit got short. Kiss your bitch on the porch, walk her back to a car. Pat the pussy, slap her tail and tell her see you tomorrow.
He doesn't do that inflection, that like holding back until the very last word in that run. He's mostly on top of the beat. So he's very, very like sharp to the rhythm. You can hear him formulating the idea for his pocket literally in this take, because then he does that really exaggerated holdback at the end and he goes, that's where I want to put my rhythm. And then his tone is a little bit brighter on this as well. And as he did other takes, he experimented with darker tones, brighter tones, things like that. And we ultimately landed on this particular flavor. Now, within that, once we kind of landed the flavor here, I notice I have these marked as sets. So set 3 was the flavor that we were going for. Then it comes down to the individual nuances of the takes. So let's take this line, for example, right here.
Out of school or off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it. Nigga rolling up the roaches when the shit got short.
So now I'm going to take the same play, the same section that this is, which corresponds to this here, but I'm going to play it from here. This part we didn't keep. Listen to where he lands.
Out of school or off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it. Nigga roll.
There's a little bit too much kind of like metric sound to the tone.
Out of school or off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it.
It kind of like has almost like a kind of jerky feel on that one, whereas the one that we ended up keeping.
Out of school or off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it. Nigga rolling up the roaches when the
has the same pocket, but doesn't have that kind of robotic feel to it. And so that's a very nuancy thing, but being able to recognize those little differences and how they translate, that's kind of the line between good and great. So being able to pick out these nuances, Andre's got a great feel for his own voice. I was able to get it on the page with him pretty quick. And so we were able to work really nicely together. It was really cool, actually. And here's where the result ended up. Something that has that flow where it's kind of held back, kind of like extra bit of a pause in it, but it doesn't sound robotic. It doesn't sound metronomic. So that ended up being pretty cool. Then Andre wanted to do some experimentation. He wanted to do something unique with the sound. So he said, hey, let's try putting some auto-tune on it. So I put some auto-tune on it. I didn't find that it made a humongous difference, but I put it on there.
3 art like a sob, none good but mob. Under the steps of dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor. Out of school, off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it. Nigga rolling up the roaches when the shit got short.
What it did do is it kind of emphasized the pitch that he was putting into his voice. So he's not singing, but he is putting pitch into his voice. And so the auto-tune kind of helps emphasize that like hint of singiness that's in there. Then he asked if I could do something to kind of freak the voice out, something that would make it feel like weird or, wasn't very specific about it. So I said, okay, well, let me try a little bit of formant shifting, because I remember there was a record that he did where in the music video, he's playing the caterpillar from Alice in Wonderland, and there's some formant shifting, pitch shifting going on. I was like, okay, maybe I can call back some of that sound a little bit. So I tried it. I tried it with doing the formant, kind of up.
3 art like a sob, none good but mob. Under the steps of dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor.
And it gave me that kind of caterpillar sound, but I didn't really care for it. I tried it low just to see what would happen.
3 art like a sob, none good but mob. Under the steps of dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor.
That sounds just weird. It sounds like almost like chopped and screwed, but like not quite, and not in a good way. And then I just put the tiniest hint of formant shifting in there, and that ended up working. It's really subtle, but we both kind of looked at each other. We were playing off of the Aventone mix cubes, and we looked at each other, and we go, that feels good. We don't know why or what it was about it, but it did.
3 art like a sob, none good but mob. Under the steps of dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor. Out of school, off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it. Nigga rolling up the roaches when the shit got short.
It pushed his vocal tone a little bit more into his nose and made it feel like it was meshing with that doo-doo-doo-doo kind of synth thing in the background. Like the tone seemed to get along a little bit better. Now, I do lose a little bit of low mid-range in Andre's voice here, but this is a little philosophy thing. Anytime you do something and you and the artist both look at each other, or you and the producer, or whoever you're in the studio with, you look at each other and you go, that worked. Don't overthink it. Don't think, oh, well, how could it be better or whatever? Nope. Just go with it. Because here's the thing. If you're compromising the sound, but you're gaining a really cool feel, take that any day of the week. People do not care how records sound. They care how records feel. So always go with the feel. Every time. 100%. Take your ego out of it. Don't worry about whether or not it's the greatest sounding vocal on earth. Don't worry. Make the record successful. Go with that. Okay. So what would I do here if I was the one actually mixing the record? I did not mix the record. The record's called No Cigar. It's off of the Goody Mob album. I did not mix it. But here's how I would have approached it if I was mixing it.
3 art like a sob, none good but mob. Under the steps and dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor. Out of school, off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it.
So because I'm losing a little bit of general mids, I want to boost those up. There's also a little resonance over here that seems to kind of stick out. It's around like 600, somewhere in there. Little extra presence, little extra top end, and then take the gain down because we're pushing a lot of stuff up. So we want to also pull back on the level overall.
3 art like a sob, none good but mob. Under the steps and dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor. Out of school, off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it.
Now there is also a kind of upper mid-rangey resonance that sometimes is a little annoying.
3 art like a sob, none good but mob.
Yeah, you can kind of hear it right in here.
None good, none good, none good, none good, none good.
I'm going to assume it's right around there. I'm not really sure. Sometimes the analyzers don't really tell you what you need to know.
None good, 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 none good.
Okay, yeah, so it is that one. So there's it's just a little too much of that stuff.
None good, none good, none good. Art like a sob, none good but mob. Under the steps and dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor. Out of school, off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it.
Some of that mid-range stuff is a little bit too dynamic. It's going to step out of the record a little bit if I just kind of play it like this.
Art like a sob, none good but mob. Under the steps and dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor. Out of school, off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it. Nigga rolling up the roaches.
So just gonna tame that down.
Hard like a saw, none good but mob. Under the steps and dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor.
You know what? I think I hit the wrong resonance because I still hear it really boldly.
None good but, 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 none good but.
Let's try both. What? There we go.
None good but, 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 none good but. Hard like a saw, none good but mob. Hard like a saw, none good but mob. Under the steps and dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor.
Yeah, it's weird. I guess it's kind of both, isn't it?
Hard like a saw, none good but mob. Under the steps and dirt, there was a dungeon.
Okay, I'm just gonna leave it like this for now because the bottom line is I didn't mix the record, so let's not belabor it. But yeah, little bit of control of that mid-range now that we've enhanced it, right? Because sometimes it's a little up and down. So just, putting a little control on there. And I would experiment with doing some texture kind of stuff because this sounds great.
Like a saw, none good but mob. Under the steps and dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor. Out of school, off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it.
Like, I mean, there's some resonance is still a little present in there and everything like that, but I mean, we're pretty darn close, and even just as is, we probably wouldn't have to change anything. Like, I think it would work. It could go out the door that way. But it would also be fun to experiment with some texture stuff. So doing a little bit of, like, rectification in the low end. If we listen to the instrumental, actually... there's kind of this like sort of buzzy, square, wavy distortion in the bass that's really nice. So doing something similar, like something fuzzy kind of in the bass of Andre's voice might be cool. And he's the type of dude who likes this kind of stuff. And similarly, like kind of saturating and compressing the top end to kind of give it a tapey sort of vibe. And then just pulling the top end down to match. Could be like a really, really neat effect. So here's our before and after. It's going to sound a little telephonic, but like in an interesting way.
3 like a saw, none good but mob. Under the steps and dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor. Out of school, off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it. 3 like a saw, none good but mob. Under the steps and dirt, there was a dungeon, no floor. Out of school, off of work, or smoke a blunt and go for it.
So like pushes the vocal forward, gives it like a slightly lo-fied grittiness to it, which I think kind of works with the aesthetic of Goody Mob and with the aesthetic of this beat and everything like that. Probably would also... switch this out of, okay, what? Oh, that's an old version of auto-tune, I see, okay. Am I in low latency mode? No. Okay. I'm getting a few little bumps in the tracking, but you know what, I'm not going to worry about it.
Nigga rolling up the roaches when the shit got short. Kiss your bitch on the porch, walk her back to her car. Pat that pussy, slap her tail and tell her see you tomorrow. Pocketbook to match the nail, she never needed a bra. I can tell that bitch with hell, she probably needed a father. For the record, me too. What the hell could we do? Let your older partners raise you, watch them do what they do. Now I pull over just in case I gotta snooze when I cruise.
Yeah, and I really like that sound. I would go something in that direction. I would probably do all of that in like 15 minutes and then spend like 45 minutes to an hour like refining where exactly the little cuts on the EQ are and everything like that. I guess there's one other thing I didn't show in this, which is this effect right here at the back end of the verse. This kind of weird overdub.
Discussion, fuck them, all of them hoe. What's a dungeon or home? Home for misfits. Sleeping on the floor, then wake up when you smell.
That kind of like weird harmonized thing, that's just the same vocal line pitch shifted in two directions, one going up and one going down.
Home for misfits.
Right, that's up.
Home for misfits.
That's down, and it forms kind of like a weird P-Funk style sounding harmony thing, which is pretty cool. By the way, all of this stuff here, the auto-tune and the pitch shifting, got committed before I sent it to be mixed. Whenever you get something that you like in the studio with an artist, before you send it to mixing, just commit it. Don't send it dry. Don't leave it ambiguous. A good mix engineer is going to appreciate having a very solid, clear direction and being already part of the way there. So, yeah, if you like something and the artist likes something, commit it send the committed version. If they really, really need the dry version for whatever reason, they can hit you up and get it. Okay, cool. If you dig this video, hit that like button. If you want to catch more videos like this, hit subscribe with the bell notification so you get notified. Check out Andre3000's new album. Shout out to Ken Oriole once again. And lastly, you know what we say here at Weiss Advice. We are musicians, sound is our instrument, and I will catch you next time.